Never anticipated like the HVAC to whole thing. Tennis don't, no, there's no one. This isn't. It's not.
Good afternoon.
They'd have to talk to you.
And welcome to the Technical Advisory Committee meeting for April 23rd, 2026. We will start off with a round of introductions. And I guess I'll start. I'm Bjorn Griepenberg, City of Petaluma, filling in as chair today for this meeting.
Ashley Cotter, City of Sonoma.
Elizabeth Tyree, Sonoma County Regional Parks. Terry Swollinger, City of Healdsburg.
Rick Scott, City of Patati.
Edie Takata, City of Roden Park.
Hunter McLaughlin, Sonoma County Public Infrastructure.
Brendan Barrett, Town of Windsor.
Emily Betts with Sonoma County Transit.
Mike Van Mitty, City of Santa Rosa Public Works.
Oriana Hart, City of Sebastopol.
Derek Montani, City of Cloverdale. Dave Rupert, SCTCA.
Shauna Gauze, SCTCA.
And online, do you have any folks?
Yeah, for committee members online, we have Tarina Wilson and Giovanna Quesada from the county, and then attendees as well. We also have Chris Cohn and Dana Ture from SCTCA staff, and Dan Hennessy from City of Santa Rosa.
All right, great. And I neglected to remind everyone to speak into the mics, but it looks like everyone did a good job. Moving on to item 2, public comment. And this is on any items not on the regular agenda, either in person or via Zoom. It's like we do not have any public comments. All right. Item 3 is approval of the meeting notes from March 26th. Any comments or edits to those minutes? All right, so I guess we can accept those. And then item 4, Brown Act update, Senate Bill 707 and meeting options. Looks like this is going to Ross.
Sorry. Presentation up.
And I apologize. I think some of you have heard this before. I will keep it brief.
Speaking to the mic.
Yeah, so I'll keep it brief. Just have an update on Brown Act meeting options, which I think could help with attendance, particularly remote attendance. So been kind of doing this to all the committees. Our board passed SB 707 provisions for a multi-jurisdictional board, which applies to the board itself. This is for advisory committees, which is what the TAC is. So the Brown Act, as you know, ensures open meetings, public participation, and transparency. And it does apply to SCTCA and all of its public advisory committees, including this one. So updates to the rules. SB 707 updates and streamlines teleconferencing options. And so it expands the remote participation options. It is in effect through 2030. And a number of different agencies are in the process of adopting these rules. It's not going to be as big of a change for us just because we have always allowed remote public participation, and that will continue. But for membership, it will give you some more options. So an eligible body, SB 707 allows committees to use teleconferencing if authorized, which did happen. And this applies to bodies with no final decision-making authority. And our legal has determined that this and our other public committees, that does apply to them. And yeah, so that's us going real fast. So basically the meat of this, if the committee passes this, this will allow for teleconferencing remote attendance by members, regardless of just cause or emergency or anything like that. That is not required. Advance notice is not required. You do not need to make your meeting space publicly accessible or anything like that, like previous teleconferencing. Essentially, all you need is a connection that will allow both video and audio both ways. And you do need to disclose whether there's any other adults in the room with you. Once that happens, you can vote. Members can also count towards the quorum. There does not need to be a quorum in the room. The room will be open. We will be here. And hopefully we'll see some members as well, but it is not required. The drawbacks are if remote access fails, the member that has lost connection will no longer count towards quorum and can no longer cast a vote. However, the meeting itself can continue. We did look into this. Connection failure does not equal entire meeting invalid. It just does remove that member from the committee until the connection is restored. So today, the TAC is asked to vote on authorizing SB 707 teleconference provisions. This would begin at the May meeting if adopted, and it does need to be renewed every 6 months. However, that renewal can happen at a remote meeting. And with that, we'll open it up to any questions. We're all kind of learning together, but we have been instituting this and really hope that it'll help attendance. And I think it also just dovetails with SCTCA's GHG reduction and accessibility goals.
Thank you, Ross. Any questions or comments? Do we have any? We do need a motion to vote on this. If anyone's comfortable coming forward with the motion.
I move that we move forward with this remote attendance opportunity.
I second. And all in favor? Aye. Great.
Thank you very much.
Our next item number 5 is TFCA and TDA 3, and it looks like the first up is the TFCA proposed program of projects.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Margot Tanyos is online and she'll be presenting this item.
Good afternoon. Pleasure to see you all. First up is the TFCA. As the group may remember, we issued a call for projects in March of this year. This is the second year of the 100% competitive approach. So all funds were competitively available. We received, well, I will also say that there was a fairly significant jump in the amount of funds that were available. The previous year had been in the range of 655,000, and this year's call was 1.7 million. That's largely because of some additional close to $975,000 that were made available specifically for bikeways and bike parking. So of the 7 applications that we received and that were reviewed and met the qualifications, 4 of them were in fact related to bicycle infrastructure, 2 for transit and 1 for programs. We are looking to secure your consider recommending for approval these 7 projects to move forward for review and approval by our board. Welcome any questions if you have them on any of the projects.
And do you want to do this with 2 separate motions? One for TFC? Okay, cool.
Yes, please.
All righty. So first up, any questions or discussion on TFCA? All right. Any motion to approve the recommended project list for TFCA?
I move to vote to approve the projects as listed.
Great.
Can I just get the names, please?
Oh yeah, that was Mike Van Mitty from Santa Rosa. Do we have a second?
I second.
All right, Liz, that's Elizabeth Tyree from Regional Parks. Great. And all in favor? Yes. Great. So next up is the TDA3 proposed program of projects.
Excellent. Thank you, Bjorn. So similarly, opened the call for projects in earlier this year and received 3 projects. As you may remember, for any projects that exceed a project cost of $250,000, they're required to submit a MTC Complete Streets checklist, and that honor went to Sonoma County Public Infrastructure for their Arnold Drive bike lane project. Those 3 projects cumulatively totaled $758,000, and similarly looking for requesting review or recommendation of moving forward with these projects to put before our board in May of this year.
All righty. Once again, looking for any questions or comments folks have on the list of projects, or we'll entertain a motion.
I move to approve the list of 26-27 TDA3 projects.
Thank you.
That came from Hunter McLaughlin.
All right. And all in favor of approving the TDA3 projects? All righty. Thank you, Margot. And thanks to everyone.
I think there's one other report.
Oh, right. We do have the TFCA and TDA3 Q3 report. Thank you.
I will be finished soon, Bjorn. This is more for informational purposes. I have provided a quarterly review. This is the standing of the project status through March of this year for both TFCA and TDA. So again, just you have the document in front of you to reference those that are currently funded and their proposed expiration dates. So if you notice that your expiration date is getting closer, please reach out. I'm happy to clarify what some of those final deliverables are and to whom they go. So informational only.
Wonderful. Thank you. Moving on to item 6, that is the travel model update, general plan build out. Assume this is you, Adam.
Yes, that is me. Good afternoon, committee members. Let's see, just coming to give you a very brief just update on an internal process. We're working with your equivalent planners to essentially try to round out a really important scenario for our Sonoma County travel model. So as you know, we've come before this committee in the past with some more recent updates. Our 2023 existing conditions was an important one for our travel model. And then more recently was the Plan Bay Area 2050 Plus, which is a requirement for our regional funding. So the general plan build out is really, if you're not familiar, thinking about what's the maximum amount that can be built within the cities, largely based off zoning, but also incorporates documents related to specific plans, housing element updates. And so we've been going through over the past few months, working with the planners to try to essentially understand where the cities are in terms of their general plan update process and also the subsequent then build out scenario. So for a number of cities, Petaluma, Santa Rosa, Sonoma is going through it right now. Those general plan build outs are largely different than our most recent validation, which was in 2019. So if you haven't had your general plan update since then no worries. We're largely basing the update off of housing element updates and then any major projects that might have gone in or where zoning might have said one thing, but then something else got built, for instance. So let's see, there's an example map that you can kind of see in the staff report. So all the jurisdictions will be getting either one, or if you're the county or Santa Rosa, a lot of maps based off the different land use values. So that's our single family, multifamily, light industrial, so on and so forth. So you'll be able to see kind of what the what the 2023, the general plan build out, and then what that net difference is. So essentially looking at kind of where there's additional capacity or additional development planned. So for the most part, everything is showing growth. The only, and these are again based off what we understand from general plan policies and zoning and housing elements. The one that category that is declining is students. That's largely just due to population trends. Looking at the California Department of Finance kind of age projections, we see that we're either holding steady or maybe even just a slight decline into the future. So this is somewhat contradictory, and as we think about how development might still continue to be happening, but then that student population is declining. And that's somewhat just the crux that we're in, where there's different projections for what the future of Sonoma County will really show. So the Department of Finance for the California, as I mentioned, really shows us kind of that stagnant growth. And given where we are at in our kind of population decline, we're largely holding steady right now in terms of population. On the other hand, Plan Bay Area shows continued growth. A lot of cranes are, showing up around the county. We see development happening. So we're trying to balance that kind of conflict somewhat between recognizing that there is growth happening, but then largely we see the student population either kind of stagnant or declining in some cases. So the reason why all of this is important is largely for travel modeling, for CEQA review. Anytime there's major projects or plans that need to be reviewed, we use this model for both the 2023 to show what would happen if this project or plan went in today, but then also considering all of the other developments that are under consideration. What would this project or plan look like when everything else is also impacting our roadways? So that's why it's really important to have both the 2023 and this general plan build out as accurate as possible. So then if we say miss a major project and we run a travel model scenario, that could have some legal liability further down the line if we're shown not to have included this major hotel or what have you, major resort that was, part of this general plan build out or was a proposed project. So, all right, so maybe I'll wrap it up there and see if there's any questions. This was largely mostly informational for you folks, but if there are any queries, I'd be happy to entertain.
Right, thank you. Any
Good question. And how do you reconcile between the general plans and the impact of the state residential housing laws that pretty much allow you developers to come in and have much higher intensity and density development than what's in the general plan?
Yeah, you nailed a key question that we're wrestling with, and we're going to be largely taking this jurisdiction by jurisdiction. I think the issue that's come up is that density bonus units don't need to be counted as part of your general plan build out. So you don't have to essentially evaluate them as part of your EIR. Where that could be helpful in some cases, but then also if you actually really want to know what the real impact is, then it's less helpful. So we're talking with jurisdictions about trying to track probably both scenarios. So if you want to know what's legally required to be reportable versus what the actual impacts might be if you count those density bonus units, we could understand kind of the difference between those two. Especially, as you said, the state laws are just always, messing with our model. What's required to have a CEQA review now is changing as well too. So yeah, we're trying to stay nimble with all of these mandates coming down to make sure that we're, yeah, providing the best data for these reviews. Yeah, good question.
Moving target.
Exactly.
I have a question.
Mhm.
So, what about, other jurisdictions? So our neighboring sovereign nation to our Toronto Parks West, is that in the travel model too? Is information from in the travel model from the Graydon?
Yes, absolutely, for sure. And yeah, I've been talking with Elliot about kind of keeping those separate and making sure that we have kind of separate designations to some degree for that reporting for sovereign nations to try to separate that out, especially the case of Roanoke Park.
So the key takeaway is that if anyone ever asks us about the travel model, it is accounting for the maximum build out of our general plans.
Correct.
That's the key takeaway. Okay.
Yep.
All right. Looks like we're staying with you for item 7, the travel behavior study update and model validation request for proposals.
Yeah, so we've got an exciting RFP coming up where we're trying to accomplish essentially 3 things through this. The first one I mentioned just previously is about validating our travel model. So the last time we did that was in 2019. So the first step would be making sure that we can have a consultant come on board. What we're considering is actually shifting our existing conditions from 2023 to 2025. So just trying to add a few 2 years onto that so we can get the most up-to-date data in the model. They'll also be looking at our kind of forecast, our 2 forecast models as well, but the main reason is primarily for the 2025 model validation. So that one is pretty straightforward. The next one is, I think, more of an opportunity to get some feedback from you all. So we will also be updating our travel behavior study. So as you all familiar, this would be the 3rd in our series, going back to, I think, about 2017. So this uses primarily big data from GPS devices on vehicles to be able to understand the overall movement of people within the county, but then also in between adjacent counties as well. So are most people familiar with the travel behavior study addendum, the more recent one? Maybe a show of hands that say yes, you've read it or familiar. Okay, so thank you for your honesty. It's helpful to take a look at that if you can, just to give you a sense of what information is in there. There's a lot of basic statistics that we could break down essentially by zones. Those zones have largely been jurisdictional boundaries, but then for the county, breaking up special focus areas. And so one of the things that we're looking at is taking another look at what those zones are and understanding what type of level of analysis can we essentially fund through this project. So if more granularity is needed for some of our work, then that could be helpful to know, or your work in particular. And so to step back just for a minute to let you know kind of how this is used, some of the data that comes through will show, for instance, like what the VMT would be for interjurisdictional trips or trips within the city. It would show average trip distance. And so some of those metrics, when you start to break them out then by jurisdiction, are helpful to be able to track over long term. Or one of the key metrics that I often think about is kind of the length of those trips within a city. So that's, I think it's about like I forget, Bjorn could probably correct me, it was like 2.9 miles or something. That's kind of starting to then recognize that these trips that we take within our city, which account for a certain percentage of total trips, could then be potentially replaced by active modes of transportation, especially scooting around on, e-bikes and so forth, makes those trips a lot quicker. So it's a helpful reference point. And just to catch you up on some of the other things that have come up in previous committee meetings that we brought this up. One of the important things we're looking at, which have largely been challenged just by the data potential, is trying to separate public transit and active transportation from these modes. Generally, it's just kind of all lumped together, so you can see by jurisdiction what the trips are, but not kind of what percentage is transit or active transportation. So that's one of our questions that'll be popping up, that we need to update the RFP scope of work. But yeah, I would love to just open it up and see if there's any other questions that, essentially that you might want to ask for this project. It's, we're looking at tourism issues. Tourism travel has always been like a big topic, for instance. So yeah, would love to, just entertain any ideas that folks would like to have answered as part of kind of this next step of our big travel model, or a big data kind of evaluation.
Thank you. And I will say I do cite the last report pretty frequently when speaking to our council members and community about, especially around the potential for mode shift in Petaluma. The last report found that about 1/3 of all trips within Petaluma are 2 miles or less. So that's a great statistic, obviously, to kind of share that potential for active mobility and mode shift. Any questions or items to add to the wish list for the next report?
The active transportation's intriguing, with the use of e-bikes by a large, increasing segment of the population. So any information along those lines would be very interesting. Counting walkers on bikes and people on e-bikes, if you can get into that level of detail.
Yeah.
I know we hired W-Trans for the Laguna Trail, and they were able to get pedestrian count and the bicycle count. So before it was just used to counting cars, and now it's it's useful to know what the trends are with the alternative transportation modes on our facilities.
Okay, great. Yes, we will definitely look into that.
I'll add one of the things I've always loved or would have liked to have is kind of a mode split for people visiting our downtown area. I think would be a good data point to have, especially when having conversations around parking availability and parking management. I know a lot of us have very popular downtowns where that would benefit the conversations around parking and other mobility investments to visit our downtowns.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
That might need to be more of an intercept survey exercise than something that can be accomplished. I don't know, maybe big data can do that. I know big data hasn't really been able to parse out a bike trip versus a trip made by car, for example. So
no, they kind of make estimates more than actually counting. Yeah.
Well, I was just thinking about that. That was going to be my next question. Do we know that exists yet, or that the companies are on the cusp of being able to distinguish? I mean, because it is big data, cell phones that are bunched up. That must be a bus. Cell phones that are going a certain speed must be walking. I mean,
Yeah, I'm familiar with a few modules that are just early in the process of trying to separate it out for active transportation. yeah, I could assume there could be something similar for public transit if there's a bunch of them moving in the same direction. Yeah, you would think they could separate that out, but yeah, I'm not as familiar with any public transit ones, but I'm sure they're out there as well too. So that's yeah, an important thing we want to make sure we can press and see if we can separate that out.
Maybe even to just taking it a step further. I know Sonoma County Safe Routes to School, they do a travel survey, but that's kind of a point in time count, like how many people walked or biked on that day. But and obviously you're never going to do every school in the county, but I wonder if there'd be any benefit to picking, a couple of kind of typical school condition environments, right, with somewhat local enrollment and doing some data validation just to get a sense of that as well. Cool to have.
Okay,
Yep.
yeah, that's interesting, yeah. All right, great. Any other questions, comments? All right, thank you for your time.
Thank you. All right, next up is measures M and Go Sonoma.
Thank you, Bjorn. In your packet is the monthly invoicing and appropriation status report that we provide to you. This is for your convenience, so you know when the last time you invoiced us, or if you have funding that is due to be appropriated or has been appropriated but hasn't yet been invoiced. We do look to have invoicing happen at least every 6 months. And if not, then it becomes inactive. So let me know if you have any questions.
Thank you. And the next is the regional information update.
That just includes the inactive federal obligations, and I got a status update from the county on all of the projects on the list except for one, but the one that wasn't included is one of the ones that has a pending invoice at Caltrans, one of those orange ones. And so everything is up to date.
Thank you. And moving on to the upcoming SCTCA board meeting, April 13th.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Oh, that must be a typo.
Yeah, so it's actually for May. So just sharing my screen real quick, and let me see if I can make this a little bigger. Okay. So we got another items for our May meeting, including our meeting minutes approval, our Q3 financial reporting, our legislative update, the TFCA and GA3 program of projects that you just approved, the maintenance effort policy action. The TAC did not take action on it last month, but it is going to our Citizens Advisory Committee next week, and they'll be going forward to the board in May. We have an item to approve entering into local match agreements with the cities of Cotati, Petaluma, Roanoke Park, Santa Rosa, and the town of Windsor for the fiscal year 24 Safe Streets and Roads for All program. We recently had our kickoff meeting with our consultant team with Tool Design, and we'll be working with all of you as we get going on that in earnest over the next few months. We have an update from our transit implementation ad hoc committee. And then the item 5.2 shown on the draft agenda is the coordinated claim for transit. The board did not take action on that item this month, unfortunately, due to some last minute concerns. And so this item will be coming back for consideration in May. And then we have our big item is our preliminary budgets for fiscal year 26-27 for our CPA, TFCA, Measure M, Go Sonoma, and SCTA. So that's our big item for May. And then have our normal items for our activities reports. And then also for the budgets, we have some minor updates on our personnel policies. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
What is the date of the board meeting?
That would be May 11th, yes.
excited to get those Safe Streets for All projects moving forward. Thank you for that. And last up, we have our roundtable discussion and any informational items.
Mr. Chair, before we throw it to the committee, there are a couple of informational items that are attached to your packet. One of them is on the Transit Review and Coordination Tech Transfer Seminar. So if you're interested in that, go ahead and scan and check it out. And the second one is a trifold that I took from the Society for California Archaeology website, which is a useful resource for planners for the secret review process in how it relates to cultural resources. Cultural resources always tend to be a bit of a bear, and they are a little bit of a surprise to many planners when you get through the process and suddenly you are found to have cultural resources that you then have to coordinate with the State Historic Preservation Office. So if you have some interest, you could check that out. Just in there for your information.
Great, thank you.
Trina Wilson has her hand up.
And we got Trina online.
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm just have an announcement that the city of Santa Rosa has a deputy director position open. If you knew Rob Sprinkle, this is the job that he had. It has been renamed. It's now the deputy director of transportation safety. And that is to reflect the really heavy commitment that Santa Rosa has for Vision Zero and the safe systems approach right now. So if you or anybody you know is interested, definitely forward over to them. One other new thing about this job listing is that it no longer requires that you are a licensed engineer. So, and again, that reflects the fact that we're looking for anybody who has multidisciplinary experience, Vision Zero, safe systems approach, and all of that. So you can let me know if you have any questions, but I just wanted to announce it since I think some of you will probably see it anyway and be confused on which job that is.
Thank you. Hope you get some good applicants for that. Anything else exciting happening around the county?
I wouldn't call it exciting. It's a slow moving thing called PTAP.
Known as the
registered in
Payment
PTAP
Technical
26.
Assistance Program.
Yeah, for the PM for payment management programs. And it's a year, at least a year behind schedule.
A year behind schedule in.
Well, we applied for it, I don't know, a year and a half ago, because of the new administration that was put on.
Oh, I see.
Put on hold. So it's still grinding its way through the process, and it has a new MTC rep, Elliot Wong.
Hmm. Taking the place of Sweet Tan.
Yes, thank you. And the latest from Elliot this week was they're still in the contract negotiation phase, because my question was, will we be hearing from our consultant?
I'm so sorry. Well, because we've had a kickoff already, but it was,
PTAP 26?
yeah.
Huh?
But so hopefully yours is coming. I mean, it was just like a couple weeks ago, so.
Well, that's interesting. City of Sonoma's in the same boat as City of Toddy. We just keep getting like, okay, we're working through the contract. You'll get connected soon. It's supposed to be at the end of the month, but basically the end of the month now. We haven't heard anything.
I can follow up with MTC if you like.
First process.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
We had a introduction meeting, but the consultant hadn't signed a contract yet. And that was on Monday.
I was trying to wonder about ours. They just jumped the gun.
So maybe they jumped the gun.
Well, very much in the same boat.
Yeah, I know. I was like, we did, because we did it a while ago.
Yeah, the on the ground inspection should have occurred July 45. Yeah. Contribution.
The county, bid one of our big paving projects. The engineer's estimate is about $11 million, and it came in like 20% below the estimate. So that was wonderful, given the oil prices lately, so
Did you put the oil index part for Caltrans in your contract?
we did.
Yeah, we didn't, and our our pre-con, our contractor was like, hey, I was like, darn it. Everyone called it the TAC. Oh, well.
We just opened bids for our pavement preservation project and pedestrian improvements, bike lanes. I think we're doing 4 RFPs, and that came in.
Can you get them
Oh.
out just because that way?
And that came in like 7% under the engineer's estimate. So we didn't really know what to expect, and we're pretty pleased with the results.
Anyone else have any recent bid or openings or projects coming up?
We're getting ready for our summer slurry seals and appreciate the conversation at the last TAC because I flagged that for our team who wasn't aware of the indexing opportunity. And so we've got that in our bid docs now. So thank you, Hunter.
Yeah, no worries. We have one bidding today at 3, so we'll see how that one goes.
Should note that staff attended the groundbreaking for Santa Rosa's US 101 bike ped overcrossing. Great event in the rain a couple weeks ago, but it was fun to be there. And we're also going to be attending the groundbreaking SMART is having on May 8th for the Healdsburg extension. So that one is at the Foley Family Pavilion, I believe, at 1 o'clock, I say. So, not sure if anyone else has any invites coming up, but looking forward to that one.
All right, great. I think that just about wraps us up, unless there's any last items. And I will take this opportunity to adjourn the meeting. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you again for everyone to show up in person.
Without hearing